Sharpness. Hi guys, it's time to talk about sharpness. This is one of the most popular functions of Photoshop. If you want to increase the sharpness, then you need to start doing this at the very last stage of the work, when all other operations have already been applied. And as a rule, almost all images need at least a little sharpness. And of course, a certain number of filters are made for this. If we go to the filter menu and select Sharpen, we will see that there are filters here. But in fact, not all of them are equally good. For example, filters such as Sharpen, Sharpen Edge and Sharpen More have virtually no effect, and I don't see the point in considering them. Moreover, they don't have any settings, and you can get any meaningful result. We'll start considering the remaining filters with Unsharp Mask. Choose it, and let's select some kind of a piece, where we have just the border of our image. Let's set it to 0 first. This is how our image looks without increasing the sharpness. To begin with, I would like to tell you how the sharpening occurs. The fact is that Photoshop defines the boundaries of the contrast of colors and makes the pixels of these borders more contrasting. Light pixels are made lighter and dark pixels are made darker. And due to this contrast effect, the effect of sharpness is created. And a setting called Effect is responsible for this option. Let's try to increase the effect. If you look at the preview, you will see that the maximum magnification of the effect gives us such contrasting white and dark areas, which create the effect of great sharpness. And here is the radius of these areas, the radius of the pixels that are captured by this effect. The contrast is just shown by the second setting, which is called radius, and the higher it is, the more pixels are captured to increase sharpness. Let's reduce it. Look, there is even such a halo around, and the width of this halo is precisely determined by the radius. That is, within this area, dark pixels become as dark as possible, and light pixels become as light as possible. And let's reduce this radius, so that it's not so big. Well, the effect is also, of course, worth reducing. It is reasonable to set the effect usually no more than 150%. So, let's get closer to the needles, and take a closer look at them. Look, here we also have such a halo. It shouldn't be like this. So, let's reduce the radius a little. And now our halo is decreasing. It turned out like this. When we add the sharpness, Photoshop increases the contrast of all small details. And sometimes, as a result, there is noise in the photo. If you don't want this to happen, you can use the threshold option, which removes the sharpness from small details. And thus, you avoid the appearance of excessive noise. If you have it, you added a threshold, and the areas of the photo that are filled with the same color become blurry. Thus, the noise effect disappears. So, I will still increase the radius, because it seems to me that somehow the effect of sharpness is not there visible. It seems to me that it will still be a little better. Well, yes, we have this halo here. So, we'll reduce the halo after all. I am trying to reduce the radius. Still, I reduced it a little, so that at least it wouldn't be so noticeable. Well, let's stop here. We won't use this effect too much. Let's click OK. That's it. Let's move on to the next filter, which is called Smart Sharpen. And if the effect turns out to be excessive, we can not only adjust it on a smart filter, but also reduce the opacity. That's why I created a copy. Let's move on to the filter. Sharpen, Smart Sharpen. This filter appeared later than the one we used before. And there are a few more settings in it, and as soon as we applied it, it is immediately clear that our image has changed, because when the effect is installed, it already does some work with the image. Let's choose this part of the image. By the way, when I click on an image and hold down the left mouse button, the software shows me what the image was like before applying the filter. Let it go, and that's with the use of a filter. Here we immediately have some default settings that we can adjust, and their actions are similar to the previous filter. The reduced noise option is just the same as the threshold value. Look, a small noise is here, the dark areas. And if we, for example, set it to 0, then this noise will be just huge. Therefore, Photoshop immediately offered us some value, but of course we can also increase it, so that the noise is removed. Also, there is a possibility to fade the effect in shadows and highlights. For example, if we want to minimally apply the filter effect on dark areas, we can edit a fade amount effect. Let's take a look at this area here, is relatively dark. That's with 100%. And that's at 0 value. I think there is no point in weakening the effect here. The same applies to highlights. Look how it looks like at 0. And look at the lights areas at 100%. So this filter is more advanced and allows you to work more subtly. In addition, there is also a remove option here, and you can choose the type of blur that you would like to remove. For example, you can choose lens blur or motion blur and see which option is right for your image. But it seems to me that in this case Photoshop very successfully offered us Gaussian blur, which we will apply. This is how our skier looked before applying this filter, and that's how wonderfully he transferred with the help of the sharpen effect. Of course, there are other ways to sharpen the image. In the next lesson we will continue to consider them, and today you have two such simple homework assignments. The first homework assignment will be to add sharpness to this picture using the Unsharp mask. The second homework task will be to edit a photo of a skier using Smart Sharpness. Let's talk about another 3 interesting ways to sharpen images. Sometimes it happens that the image turns out to be blurred because the subject moved during the shooting, or the photographer's hand trembled, or maybe the exposure time was too long. Sometimes such images can be improved a little. Of course, you can get an absolutely perfect flawless image, but you can make it better. And this is exactly what a special filter, which is called shake reduction, is designed for. When you open this filter for the first time, you initially have the window closed. Therefore, I recommend that you click on this arrow next to the word Advanced. And in this case, you'll have such a window that shows on which area the software will focus in order to create the maximum possible sharpness. Of course, we can move the sight to a more significant area. In this case, it's the monkey's face. In portraits, it can be a person's face. In principle, we can even create several areas. If we click on this button, then we will have another area. Here I have it now. Well, for example, I will have it here. But this is not necessary, of course. Here I even had a third one, created by accident. Now I'm going to remove it. To do this, I click on this icon, and the last area is deleted. In general, I'll leave one after all, so that the software doesn't work too slowly. So, we select this area. Let's find it in the preview window. Look, if I press the left mouse button and hold it down, then I see the image as it was originally. I release, and that's the image after we have added sharpness. Let's check the box preview to see how we have improved sharpness with auto parameters. You can regulate them, but as practice shows, it doesn't affect everything very much. In general, the parameters that we have set by default most often work best. Well, look, I have a process going on now. It's not going very fast, unfortunately, but as it is. You see, the sharpness has been added a little more. Take a look at what we had and what we have got. In general, of course, the image has become better. We can also adjust the source noise. Suppose we have high noise. Let's see what we will have. As you can see, the image has become more smooth, and probably in this case, this is not what we need. So we'll go back to auto settings. Well, in cases where the noise is still quite noticeable after you increase the sharpness, you can use the smoothing and artifact suppression parameters that will allow you to improve the situation. In addition to this square area, which is a source for calculating sharpness throughout the image, you can also use this tool. But to be honest, it doesn't give any significant improvement. Let's already agree with the changes we have made. Click OK. Here is our monkey. Let's remember what it was in the beginning. This is what our image looked like. Here is the result. I think that for an image with such quality, this is in general a pretty decent result. Let's look at a couple more techniques to improve the sharpness of the image. These techniques don't relate directly to the sharpen filter, but still lead to its enhancement. We'll definitely need a copy of the layer. We'll go to the filter menu, select Other, and select the high pass. I suppose you still remember how the sharpness effect is obtained. It happens because of increased contrast in areas with adjacent colors. And now, with the help of this filter, we'll increase this contrast. It can be done quite strongly, but of course, we'll not do this. There is an increase in the radius, as you noticed. You probably still remember about this radius. Well, let's make such option and apply it. After that, we need to desaturate this layer to avoid the occurrence of the chromatic operations. I press Shift plus Ctrl plus U, and now we just have to change the blending mode of the layer to overlay. Let's compare. I think the effect is quite obvious. As we zoom in, we see how well we have added sharpness. If the effect seems excessive, then of course you can reduce the opacity, for example, and install the option that seems more suitable to us. Let's move on to the next example. Here we'll also need a duplicate layer, and in this case we'll go to Filter, Styles and choose Emboss, and we get such relief with a dog. Here we can change the angle of this relief. You can change here and choose from which angle our image will look best. We can also increase and decrease the effect of this relief. The higher the value of the effect parameter, the more voluminous our relief will be. Well, let's pick up some average value, so that it's not too active. Let's for example do it like this. Here we also desaturate a layer and change the blending mode. This is what it will look like in overlay mode. And in the hard light mode, the image will become even more expressive. For comparison, here is what we had and what we got in the end. If you have noticed, there is a slight shift of the image. You can reduce the opacity to make the effect softer. I remind you that we added sharpness at the very end of our work on the image, and today you'll have 3 homework assignments. Our first task will be devoted to shake reduction, and the second task is to increase the sharpness using high pass, and the third homework assignment is to increase the sharpness with the help of Emboss. That's it for today. It was Peter Romanov and AIM School. See you next time.